Okay, thanks. Hey, everybody. All right, we are live from the MIT Media Lab. Thank you very much. Um, with the report outs and the presentations from our teams from the hackathon. Could you let Tammy know that we're starting? Okay. And so first up, we have EduKey. Michael?
Welcome, everyone. Raise your hand if you have ever looked at someone's LinkedIn profile and you're like, I don't know if they really did the stuff that they said they did. Raise your hand if you've ever seen that. Excellent. We are the verification of LinkedIn. Our name is EduKey. We verify credentials. The basic problem that we face in our world today is that it's fast moving. We don't really trust all the people that we interact with these days. Things are always changing, and 1 degree from one institution is not going to be the measure of success. You need to get badges and certifications, get continuing education. You need to work at certain firms, get some years there, go to another firm so that you can really get all of your credentials really making you that special person. But how do we verify that? That is what EduKey does. We verify all the credentials that you claim on LinkedIn or your resume or for whoever you are representing yourself to. We actually have 2 customers, consumers and business. I'd like to introduce you to our consumer customer, Harry.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, so I'm Harry. I recently graduated from Columbia University last spring, and as I was applying to work at IBM, I had to get my transcript together, my resume, letters of recommendation, proof that I had taken all these internships that I said that I had before being able to get accepted and starting to work. There's so many different documents to coordinate, and it's hard for the IBM HR department to go in and verify that I am who I say I am. So I'm happy to work with EduKey and pay them to maintain kind of a digital wallet of my education, my professional certifications, my professional experiences, all these different things, so that as I apply to work at IBM and then even go on and maybe work somewhere else, get a graduate degree, take some verified courses through MIT OpenCourseWare, something like that, at every step of the way, I have my verified experiences, verified opportunities, so that I can prove that I am who I say I am in a changing and diverse world. I'm going to pass it on to Hanbin, who represents Columbia University, another potential customer of EduKey.
Hi, I'm Columbia University, and year after year, we have 2 problems. One, we need to verify backgrounds of thousands of applicants that apply to us. Second, we need to, on behalf of our graduates, we need to verify their backgrounds to their potential employers. Both of our a painstaking process. EduKey automates this entire verification process so that we can instantly verify all students' backgrounds such that we can review more applicants in shorter amount of time. Also, we can instantly approve his background to IBM such that we don't hold back our proud graduate, Harry, in his interview process. So, by using EduKey, our staff saves so much time and complaints that come in our way. We are happy to use EduKey.
Thank you, Columbia University. It's a great endorsement, isn't it? So as you can see, we make money from 2 lanes. The consumer lane, people like Harry, who's happy to pay us to put his information on the blockchain and then pay us for every time he wants one of his credentials verified. He's happy to pay us because he wants that job or that new opportunity or that consulting gig. Hanbin from Columbia University on the business side wants to pay us so that we can streamline their back office. In the admissions office, when they're trying to look at all the applicants coming from various high schools, they're already certified. They don't have to make sure that that student really went to that high school. So we open them up on that end. Also, Columbia is happy to pay us for sending out transcripts and verifying that those diplomas are real. So since we have 2 levels of income stream, this is how we can also scale, because there are millions and millions of Harrys who are always going to be looking for a job throughout their career, and they're willing to pay for that certification. And there are thousands, if not millions, of public schools, private schools, high schools, universities, and colleges that want us to streamline their back office by certifying all of their documentation. So at this point, you understand our business. It's pretty simple, pretty easy to make money, and scalable. And now we would like to open it up to questions and answers. Daza, have a question?
First of all, that's a great implementation, I would just note, of what we learned about on Friday, which is verified claims, I think. And the idea of walletizing it and then encapsulating that technical capability as a product of a company makes a lot of sense as a business. So
be on our team?
I'll certainly be a customer.
Excellent.
And I would love, if to the extent that you all hack forward from this weekend, which is always a great outcome, you can sign me up for sure. I'd be happy to sit with you all and move it forward. Maybe we can take some of the slides from the master student that showed us how to do verified claims and start to scaffold it out a bit. But I guess my first question would be, how would you identify, I mean, you're off to a great start with Columbia. How would you identify more of your target market, and what would be your sort of market penetration point, and how would you gain traction within that market? Do you have any competitors that you could benchmark against?
Harry?
Well, so just to address the competitor part first, our biggest competitor is going to be LinkedIn. So and this is actually something that maybe this is a business that we start or something like that, and then we just get bought by LinkedIn, or maybe we kind of challenge them. But that's kind of the biggest competitor, I would say. As far as increasing market penetration, I think you get new leads pretty easily and pretty quickly, because as soon as you get one person, they have their alma mater that they went to, maybe they have another educational credential. You can go to maybe they had a high school. So as soon as you start spreading out, and then you approach the high school and you say, oh, we need like a digital diploma from your high school grad. We need a digital BS from your university grad. We need the proof that you got this PhD and you defended. And then immediately you say, also, would you like to be a customer of ours? We can provide this service to differentiate you against other universities, as for enterprising high schools that want to prepare their students for college, universities that want to make their graduates competitive in the job market that's getting more and more competitive and fast-paced. It really quickly, you can find more leads, and then as soon as those universities join, then you get access to all of their digital diplomas, and then there's a whole new base of workers that you can work with, and then it just kind of snowballs from there.
Okay, so a few markets and big competitor. All right, thanks. And any other questions or any more feedback for Eduki? Yeah. Hold on. It's good for you to be heard.
Thank you. Have you guys thought about consumer price point for an individual? Like what this would cost? Would it be a monthly price or an annual price?
So rather than, we haven't done a ton of thinking on that point. We started to think about, this actually started, we were looking to store some other parts of your identity, your keys, your phone number, contact information, so that if you get locked out of your apartment or if you lose your wallet or something, you can get that information back quickly. And then we were kind of thinking, well, we as humans grossly undervalue the probability that something bad is going to happen. So like I don't think I'm going to lose my phone, but like I might just. And we were actually talking about this scenario because on Friday night I was trying to go into my apartment, but it was locked, and I had left my keys in my other pair of pants. And so I had to like figure out what to do. And, I haven't taken any action. I haven't made any sort of precautions to stop that from happening again. So I don't think that a subscription model would work. However, the way that the cost point would probably work out is either by per certification that you verify. So say I want to get my resume verified, my transcript verified, my proof that I took my some other certification, whatever. I think maybe that's one way. I think maybe even a better way would be to have that, but then also a smaller fee every time you send it to an institution or a potential employer or something like that. So a couple, like action-based rather than time-based.
Also, we wanted to point out that we're actually going to get paid, in certain situations, we're going to be getting paid twice for the same verification. So for example, let's say that, we'll take a particular use case. Let's say that Daza went to the Groton School in Groton, Massachusetts, which is a funnel for Harvard University. So we start out with charging the Groton School money to certify all of their high school degrees. So we make money on that end. Then we say to Daza, for free, here is your digitized diploma for free. By the way, we will offer this certificate and this service if you want to apply to Harvard, MIT, Columbia, wherever you want to go. So now we're going to charge them, let's say, a one-time reasonable fee that their wealthy parents will probably pay, let's say $100 one time. But then when they graduate from graduate school or they go to a certain firm and they want that certification, every time they do something that wants certification, we'll charge, let's say, another $50. But at the same time, when they go to that graduate school, let's say they go to MIT, we're going to charge MIT money to digitize and verify all those diplomas, and then we're going to do it again when the student wants the verification. So we're actually going to get paid twice, which will allow us to not charge that much on the consumer end. We'll be probably charging more on the university end because they have more money, and we're actually going to be able to show you don't need as many staff people verifying all these transcripts. So it's the money savings that we'll be getting on that end.
It's sort of like the market maker for HR documentation.
So, any other questions, comments? Okay, round up. Oh, I'm sorry. One more.
Just, I think a really potential good target for you would be something like Angie's List, where pros and handymans, plumbers, electricians coming, and you want to find them to do work for you. How do you know that they're actually capable of doing the things that they say? Someone coming into your house wants to wire your house. Are they doing it to code, to spec? Do they actually know what's going on? So I think universities, while definitely a really aggressive angle, I think the actual more direct consumer side of things, you could, people need stuff fixed all day, every day. And so I think this would be a great application for that too.
And going off of that point, I think one of the features of Angie's List is that you can kind of review your plumbers and different people like that. So that as this community grows and scales, it can become even stronger. As you could verify one of your employees if you're a boss, or if you worked on a consulting team for 6 months, you can verify your teammates that they were there with you. So you can verify peers, and it really tightens up this whole program. We're thinking about that as like kind of a smaller piece, but I think that's a really good way to start out as well.
Any other questions? Well, thank you, everyone.
So at the end, it's going from edu-key to like human key. If you went with what he said, it would go from edu-key to all human keys. Okay, so next up we have Hugo. Oh, it's Hago? Yeah. Oh, my bad. We have Hago. Do you have it up and running? Actually, hold on. Let me put it over here. Sure. Do.
And should I stay here?
Yep, I can do it for you.
Okay, cool.
Introduce yourself and hit it.
Sure. All right. Hey, so for the people that don't know me, my name is Kevin Sandoval, and today I'm here to talk to you guys about Ago. Next slide. Yeah, so today we're going to talk about the current music industry and the current problem it faces. It's kind of the list of problems are too long for me to describe, so I'll let you guys read that, but pretty much I'll give you 3 facts. In the 1980s, if you were to make a hit, you'd make about 45 to 50K, which translates today is about $60,000 to $70,000. In today's world, If you were to get 1 million listens on Spotify, can anyone guess what that revenue translates to today? Give me a number. $36. $36. And and the third fact is artists are just not making enough. They're not getting paid fairly. So, and another thing, as you can see in this chart, if I'm Rihanna and I'm trying to push out work, I would have to get 2.6 million listens just to earn minimum wage on YouTube. And this is why a lot of the labels, they actually take the profits that should go to the artists to pay for, whether it be a new car, a hotel, a condo, to keep that lifestyle afloat. And the majority of other sources of income could be from endorsements or other advertisements. Thank you. So the solution is essentially, this is something that obviously you can't build overnight, but the high-level vision or solution would be a platform, mobile and web, that allows artists to act as their own industry. So you want to, have that peer-to-peer close interaction. So if I'm Rihanna and you guys are all my fans, when I perform, I don't really know who you are. I don't know the super fan versus the person who was dragged there by his girlfriend. I'm just performing to a sea of darkness. So not only, enabling that really close fan interaction, but if you want to buy, my merchandise right from that platform, my tickets right from that platform, the digital sales of either vinyl or CDs right from the platform, as well as streaming. Yeah. So, but you have to start somewhere. That is an incredibly technologically complex and difficult task. So what I would start first, I guess, within the various features that profile would have, would to be just simply allowing artists to upload their songs and stems or MIDI files of their project. So what a stem is essentially is kind of like, let's say I make a song that has a piano, bass, and drum track. And one of the things that happens a lot in the music industry is that you have a lot of lawsuits because Michael Jackson sampled Prince and then he sampled him and da. So it's all, everyone's stealing each other's intellectual property but not paying each other for it, and then asking for forgiveness later, which causes a lot of legal fees and lawsuits. So what you can do right off the bat is create a platform where I can upload my song, but also the stems that make up that piece of art. So if I made a song that has that piano track, the bass track, and the drum track, I can upload the song itself as long as those additional tracks. So if you want to actually, I really like the piano, I want to flip that and make it to like some hip hop jazz kind of thing, you can use that, and you'd pay me one time for that sample, and then we could share for future revenues in the future. So you can upload it here. You can look at artist catalogs, even the video, and then new kind of genres within the respective platform. Next, and this would be like rest in peace Jimi Hendrix, but yeah, Jimmy's Waves, Wavelength song. So yeah, they could browse his collection, videos he has, and his saps and collaborations with other users within a respective network. Next. Yeah. And so as we talked about before, as a high-level future, this is kind of like, what we would see for the platform itself to be able to host, which is a lot, but we want to start specifically on the platform where it allows people to collaborate, to share songs and samples. So it eliminates like the huge legal issue of, people borrowing or stealing each other's intellectual property. Next. And for the roadmap right now, mainly starting on getting research, counsel, and advice from experts, and growing the team. In June, hopefully start beginning in some kind of minimal viable product. In September, release an alpha for feedback and improvements, release the beta, and upon the feedback and those improvements in March of next year, do a public release and continue upon it. And that's pretty much it. Yeah. Any questions? Thank you.
Not so fast. So, question: What are some ideas you have for the June timeframe, which is June's getting closer and closer already? Well, first of all, I just want to recognize you for starting this project last night, starting it as a project for the weekend last night, and really absorbing the feedback of Christian Smith and others who've got a lot of background in this industry and with technology, and reflecting it well, and synthesizing it really well. What are your thoughts on what would be the first thing to bite off on the big vision that you might be able to deploy as an MVP in June?
Yeah, so like I said, I know it's a very lofty thing, but I have to start somewhere. And I think the biggest thing that is is doable right now because as people use like services like SoundCloud, you can easily collaborate in like with other the users within that respective network and share music. I would just be trying to build like a little mobile and web platform where not only can you share music, but you could upload the stems or like the parts that make up the respective song, and then you'd be able to can't pretty much cancel out that legal issue. So like again, like you're a guitar player and you made a guitar song, but I really want to take that part that you played at second 15 within the respective song, and instead of me like incognito like stealing it from you and then having to worry about in the future of you suing me, I can like, hey, I like the song, can we agree on like, can I pay the one-time cost of $10 and then we can split future revenues. I'll give you half of my the revenue that I make on this song. We shake on it through like a smart contract or something like that, and then move forward. So it's collaboration as opposed to lawsuits.
Great. Other questions or comments on the project? So I'll say one. Oh, here we go. One more.
What is Ago? Like, what is it? Where'd you come up with the idea for the name?
So I'm from Honduras, so I'm a native Spanish speaker, and Ago is like to do or to make. So that just pretty means it's people who that creator that they make stuff, they create stuff. That's pretty much what it means. It's the verb to make or create. So it's simple and stays true to my roots. So yeah. Any other questions, concerns, comments? Sure. So he asked, where does the revenue come from the artist? And so the state of the industry right now is that for me to get my music, my content to you, there's 40 intermediaries between you and I. And just in 2018, a lot of those intermediaries are redundant, given that they don't actually add any value to the process, or their role in this current supply chain can be automated, can be done by you or the platform itself. So I would pretty much allow you to earn back your revenue percentages. So you'd be able to, like sell your own tickets, sell your own samples, sell your own song, your digital sales, your concert sales, that kind of stuff, your own merchandise. So it pretty much allows you to act as your own industry, your own distribution, your own licensing, your own rights, your own publishing, that kind of stuff. So it really pretty much allows you to maximize your revenue percentage within like the revenue or the revenue, the profits that you generate. Because right now within the supply chain, artists are lucky if they get, the average is 9%. So it's like you buy the groceries, you cook the food, but you can't sit at the table. You earn 9% with our whole entire supply chain, and labels and publishers earn about 50%. They take all of it, even though you're the one doing all the work. So what I would allow you to do is earn more of that revenue because you're doing most of the work, or you're using the platform to do that for you.
So one thing I can offer, since Chris Mondelaine isn't here, I volunteer him to host at least one legal hackers meetup, Boston Legal Hackers, to come and at least look at the copyright parts of what are people clicking on when they're agreeing to use the snippet,
Yeah.
and or the track, the cut, and then how do you agree on a revenue split? So
Right.
there's some, we maybe get some best of legal clauses for all that stuff.
Yeah, whether it be like like an agreed upon term, everybody splits a 50-50, or they agree, well, you can take 60-40, wherever it may be. So
Where we want to get on all that is a kind of Creative Commons, like boilerplate, reusable, very digital, modular, integratable legal terms. We want to engineer the law. We want to do it with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's hear it. Good one.
Thank you so much.
All right. Next up, Vibe Chain. Oh, wait, where'd you go? Vibe Chain. Okay. Now, who was it that knew where to find the cursor?
It's there.
Hold on, let me. Hold on a second. There you go.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Hi.
Hey.
My name is Donald G. Salvan, and today I'm representing the Vibe Chain. But before I go any further, I want to thank my partner, Premis, who's not here today for a work obligation, who worked tirelessly to make this Vibe Chain possible today. So, in a nutshell, what is the Vibe Chain? The Vibe Chain is the ability for you to set up your vibe at a party and so on, and the next person will be able to set up their vibe. So basically, if you are hosting a party, as a host, you apply your party to the VibeChain platform, and the platform send out a notification to the guest and ask the guests to accept the invitation and 5 of their favorite songs, what they want to hear at that party. As the guests are showing up at the party or they send out their music, the playlist is added into a blockchain platform called the IPFS. Now, as they are entering the room or the party, they see a QR code like this. Here is a quick demo that asks them to identify themselves. And once they see that QR code, which is on the Uport platform, they go ahead and register, and automatically a smart contract dispatch to the IPFS playlist, activate that person. They say, hey, John is here. Now, the second important part will be the smart contract, the smart algorithm to determine how does the songs get played. And we wrestle with that. A lot of people contributed on the idea. Should we determine the songs played by genre? Should the song play by beats per minute? And a suggestion was that everybody's first song play for the first half hour, and so on and so forth. So it basically take away the DJ out of the party or the autonomist or the person who thinks he knows what you want to hear. Instead, he plays your favorite song. And an interesting part with that, once your favorite song is about to play, you receive a notification that say, hey, John, your favorite song is coming. Selena Gomez is coming, right? So now you are obligated. You are, in a sense, pushed to show up on the dance floor and make a move. And while you're making your move, while you're dancing, you are setting yourself up. You are putting yourself in the mood to enjoy the party, and other people are looking at you. And one of the benefit of that is nowadays we see parties, everybody show up at the party on their phone, Twitter. They rather interact with people outside than people inside with them. So we want to take away the attitude of the cell phone. We want the attention to stay here. I want to appreciate Professor Daza's move to come up to him and say that was a great move. That was that was a great groove. So appreciate the music and open conversation. We see the necessity for this application nowadays, where other people seeing the vibe chain can be used at a block party. The vibe chain can be used for real estate, as Mr. Bill proposed. In multiple places, we see the necessity for the vibe to be here. Now, question that you might have, how is that platform gonna make money? We think a lot about that. We see a subscription model. We see the basic version free, but once you are receiving notification or for premium version, we charge you for that. If it is a corporate party, we charge you based on that. The amount of people you will have for that party, we charge you based on that. There are still a lot more development that we'll be doing on the platform, but the MVP right now is you register your party on that platform, that send out a notification to your guest. The guests put out their playlist, and once they show up, they will be able to hear their favorite song. They'll be able to dance to their favorite music to set themselves up for the grooves, for the vibe of everybody. Thank you.
Here, here. One thing I want to point out, look at this. GitHub.io is GitHub account right here. You're seeing a live app operating on the web on his GitHub account that he forked from the Uport consensus team contributed.
Yes.
So this is a good example of how we act and what's possible in a short weekend.
Yes.
So any questions or feedback on Vibe Chain?
Yeah, so like have you thought about like this could be like something that a lot of clubs or like some that concert often have really have to that is like it's gonna happen there Latin night and they're expecting 200 people
Yes. Yes,
Can you
exactly.
repeat the idea a little bit so we can hear it?
Yes, and the approach was for a club, and we thought about that. And like in the Massachusetts area, it might not you might not be able to think about it as a prominent use case for it. But if you go in state like Florida, if someone have to go to the party every weekend, and clubs are popping everywhere, so very good use case for a state like that, where you're in the college town. And when you think about college student who after a hard week of school they want to go somewhere, when you think about those places, those clubs, so this is a very good use case for it. And then you make sure that up top that the clubs already know who's coming and how many people are coming, what kind of music do they want. And also another important thing was with the, I think, unique identifier, it gives the party host to see a lot of information about the people's coming. What do they want to drink, first of all, or how do you, the platform can allow you to advertise to them. So there's so many things that you can do with that platform from that check-in. It, exactly. So exactly, yes. So this is the Genesis idea. We want to build on top of the idea, and I want to thank a lot of people who contributed as well. What they want to see. I got some good feedbacks where we fix some of this.
Christians that just came, and when this is UPort implementation, some IPFS in the background for storage and a smart contract going, and it's operated off of his GitHub account. And he joined GitHub yesterday.
Yes.
So we can too hack. We can hack. Okay, one more question. Any other questions or comments on 5G?
Just one last thing.
Yeah.
So just to make sure I have the premise right. So the whole thing of 5G is not only to give you like, I go to a party, you have pretty much, rest assured that your 5 is on the
Yes. 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 So you want to add?
Well, it was just an observation that you can be assured that some of their music will actually happen at the party, which is a nice social element, right?
Yeah. I don't know what the user can feel about that because there's not really need for them, I guess, in this case, in this specific scenario. But so the next step is like, based on like when people's vibe comes on, it's like instead of their song, they're going to start dancing. People are going to watch them and probably give them tokens if they like how they dance or they're completely on off rhythm, right?
Yes.
So is it like everyone's going to be watching each other dancing? And like is it going to be like one person dancing, everyone watching? Or like how does that?
So the way
you're pretty much just watching each other, trying to give each other tokens versus everyone actually enjoying each other happy.
So if you look at the dynamic of certain parties, for example, there are people who are there, they just want to listen to the music. But there are people who are waiting, they just want somebody to go on the floor before they go on the floor. And let's say I am that person, when I hear Despacito, I cannot sit down, right? So as an extrovert, what I will do when Despacito are playing, I'm going to making my move and try to bring people on the floor with me, right? So I'm setting myself up to pull other people. But let's say somebody's an introvert. That person might not want the spotlight to just go all out. So there are multiple dynamics or multiple ways that can happen. For some people, they will be on the center stage. They will come on the floor to show that, hey, that's my song. I'm dancing right now.
Versus the person's like, put it on the Snapchat, put it on Instagram. I want everyone to see me do my thing and get as much stuff as I can. So it's like I want to be popular versus like
Yes, exactly. And we are banking on people at parties who are drinking and they just want to, yeah. So we are banking that at least 70% of people will want to show up, or, yeah, exactly. Thank you for the input. Thank you.
Awesome. Good hacking. All right. And is your partner here? Okay, you want to get started? Okay, next up, we the customer.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for having me and for your time. Ezra and I have been working, and with the help of a bunch of other people, have been working on a project we've called We the Customers. So why We the Customers? Well, we believe that inherently we need a customer-centered democracy, something that doesn't take advantage of the fact that it's difficult to choose another government. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't have a responsive government that treats its citizens like people that they truly care about and are looking out for their best interest. Why do we want to do this? Ultimately, legislative bodies in the United States aren't creating laws that are connected to their communities. A large part of this is because of the gatekeepers, particularly in the House of Representatives. Legislation can't get to the floor of the House if it's not approved by the Speaker or going through the committee process. So there's a lot of things that keep very pragmatic, reasonable, popular policies from getting to the floor because of the inherent politics behind it. And ultimately, how can we fix this by hacking democracy? We've been envisioning a platform that can allow citizens to directly participate in drafting and reviewing legislation. We've loosely called them pub prosals, but they're developed through open source communities modeled after GitHub. And it would be easy to understand because they're written in a common format, and people would become very familiar with standard text. These blocks, which would be kind of modular code that can fit into multiple policies, would have three components. They'd have an abstract where we'd be able to dial in the spirit of the law. This is something that most regular people would understand to be able to contribute to. But there will also be elements of tying, legislative language to that, and also, if it's required, smart contract language. So that way, regular people can understand exactly what the quote-unquote machine would do should those policies be enacted. And how exactly would it work? Our policy repository will encompass all the bills that are submitted and even bills that are going through Congress. And those bills all have sections which have items which we can consider them legislative code. And these are just all modular blocks that can be created and moved around to create new policies. So Wyoming recently passed some blockchain and cryptocurrency laws. We can take best practices of those line by line and insert them into a new law and create the necessary changes to adapt it to a different state. This will make the process significantly more open and allow a lot more people to contribute to what they think is best, because we can also have forks of these ideas and find exactly the revisions that would make the policy most effective and most popular. So Ezra is a UX designer, and he did an awesome job helping to figure out exactly how this might look and what a platform might look like.
Right. So this morning we were deciding, what should this look like? For the homepage of this application, we drew a lot of inspiration from GitHub. But we wanted this to be not for code bases. This is more for bills. So basically, we took inspiration from GitHub, but we're able to display a list of bill revisions up front, as well as pinned groups of bills, and look at all the iterations of a specific bill. And this is what one of the blockchain bills in Wyoming looked like. So we looked at this and we thought, okay, what data fields are important if a user on this platform were to go in and write their own bill from scratch. So we envision like the user interface to have the accompanying data fields, and the user can easily go in and fill out these data fields. And then once they've done that, they can go into like a text editor where they can easily fill out the sections of the bill as well as the subsequent items of those sections. Because remember, within this repository, it's filled with bills. Bills are then filled with sections, and then sections are filled with items. We took a lot of inspiration from Trello. Trello has what are called boards, which are filled with what are called cards. And we wanted, what we liked about that was that it's very modular. You can drag and drop them really easily. And if you want to go into like one specific card, you can see more of the information behind that card, as well as like a comment section. So we wanted to have sort of an accompanying aspect with our items. So let's say, this is just a bill where we can see all the sections. It's broken down first into sections, but if we go into a section, let's say we go into section 2, we can look at all the items that are in that section. And then if we go into an item, we can look at the text verbatim as well as the activity behind that. So what we want to see here is actually revisions of the item that users are putting forth when they go onto the platform. Let's say they look at an item, they read an item, and they want to flip a few words, or they want to flip a whole sentence maybe. That shows up in the activity portion. Do you want to go over this? Thanks. That's about it. Thank you.
This is definitely how my session should go. It'd be great if we had version control and the ability to have a repository of terms that are reusable, and to get more people engaged in the process of suggesting stuff. Think about referendums, right? It's in the back of my head, or public meetings and city council, right up to Congress, right up to treaties, potentially. We've got a lot of trade treaties coming now, and a lot of people have a lot of opinions on this stuff. GitHub, and hey Christian, how scalable is GitHub? What if we had 100,000 people working on this? Could it? Yeah, let's say like it looked like a Unix kernel. Could it scale? Thousands of people work on the Linux kernel, so this might be the right tool for the job. Any thoughts or feedback on we the customer? Boomer.
Hi guys.
Actual lawyer.
So just a couple real quick observations and things to think about. Who here knows that if you're a citizen of Massachusetts, you have what's called a right to petition? Yes, what that means is we are one of the states that actually allows citizens to draft and propose legislation on the floor of the State House. I mean, giving people that information. When I tell people who have lived here their whole lives and they're active voters and everything, they're like, really? So that right there, just pushing out the information would be huge. And you had already mentioned this. I live in a town that has town meeting and selectmen, no mayor. And that is a forum too, where a lot of people are confused and, they want to be involved in their little towns activities, but that grassroots thing, I think this has some real potential there. So that's another thing to think about, is that scalability from the small to where Daza went to the big global international stuff. Very fascinating thing. So just wanted to sort of share that with you guys.
Thank you.
That helps too.
Open town meeting is the best. Is actually a variant of what I call as close to direct democracy as you can imagine. In New England, dating back to before the revolution, we still have some towns that govern themselves an open town meeting. If you're registered to vote and you're in the town limits, you can propose an article, you can show up during town meeting, and you can vote on it, and you can make amendments. And I believe we still use little blue paper warrants for that stuff, and we're writing in the margins. Very interesting. Other comments or feedback on we the customer? Do you mind just talking? You say great stuff, and people won't ever know it in the future.
Yeah, so obviously I love the project. That was actually a team I was on before. But I was just curious about like if you found any like target audience or like specific groups or people, perhaps states that you would kind of propose this to that, there'd be some kind of synergy with.
I've thought about it a little bit. I think the platform could work for a lot of groups that want to govern, just like GitHub is super universal. So I think that perhaps universities would be an interesting kind of governance organization to say, can we implement this on a really direct scale?
Yeah,
exactly. And in terms of adoption within like the legislative system, I think that there is, especially actually cryptocurrency is a really interesting example, because now Wyoming is making legislation, and even if we're not looking at other state by state or looking at SEC, we can't write SEC law, but it would be interesting to see if we could come up as a community with some solutions that would be a blanket proposal. So it's kind of a combination of self-governance and bringing our self-governing documents to a larger body that can turn them into actual law, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I feel like there's definitely a lot of like groups. It's like I told you about Wolfpack, who they're all about trying to take the money out of politics, and states like Vermont, who essentially they have their own currency. They pretty much, they want to see, they want to do their own thing. This just sounds like right up their alley. So I'm interested to see, where this goes from there. But great job, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How do you prevent a special interest or a trade association from gaming the system?
That's a great question. That I was actually, we were discussing that this morning a little bit. I don't know if we necessarily need to, because if it is kind of a democratic process, if a corporation or someone with the interests of the corporation in mind wanted to propose a law, if the citizens have a very transparent view of what that law does, and through the abstracts and through the comment process, if it is something that wouldn't be in the public's best interest, then there should be kind of a natural way of that filtering to the bottom. Maybe that's an overly idealistic way of looking at it, but I think that would be the hope. Does that answer the question?
Anything else on we, the customer? Could you answer one other thing? You kind of sort of touched on it, but when I hear we are the customer, I think of my capacity as a consumer in a commercial transaction. I'm a customer of a business. And when I think of civic sphere, I think of citizenship. I think of, civic engagement. I think like I am the participant, I'm the resident, I'm the stakeholder, I'm the citizen. Why customer in this case?
This idea kind of stemmed out of, I took a public policy entrepreneurship class. We read a book called Raving Fans, which was all about customer service. And it was about how great businesses, and a lot of businesses compete on user experience, customer service, things like that. And those best practices, there's almost no reason for the government to not treat people like customers. I think it's more of a mindset than it is like a definitional term, where when we're creating services or creating ideas, it should be for creating the best possible experience, not the minimum possible experience. Because for your customers, you don't want to just give them any product. You want to give them the best product so they keep coming back. If we can have that mentality in government, even though there may not be the same incentive structure, that would be the ideal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And I appreciate that it's thoughtful. And so we're looking at this as a value exchange, and it's wrapped around something that's almost got a product or a service, which is the law itself. So it makes a lot of sense and it's customer focused. So, all right, sign me up as a customer. We the customer. Sarah, thanks. Nice work. Nice collaboration too. Okay, next up, sanctioned.io with Mr. Poppers.
Sanctioned.io because blockchain is too important to fail. What do I mean by too important to fail? Well, I've been looking at the world of blockchain and ICOs, and especially on Telegram, and there's a lot of, how do I control, okay, there we go. So here's just a sample of what sometimes is seen on Telegram. So we're just going to call this is a sample of something. Scam ICO, so very nice logo there. And then there's the Lamborghini you get if you buy their token, because they said buy extra tokens. Once the token hits the exchange, it's going to go up at least 300%. And since we're legal hacking here, that's a violation of what's called the Howey Act. So there's a particular set of claims where we have a utility token, and then we have securities, and tokens aren't supposed to be securities. Anyhow, normally when this, at least not normally, currently when that happens on Telegram, there's no consequence, right? Maybe a moderator will delete a message and say, this isn't really what I want, but there's not much that can be done until now. So here is our diagram for the sanction.io suspect claims process. Now, of course, since we're doing this, I have to give that claim the benefit of the doubt here. So this is just a suspect claim. We can't make any claim about the claim yet. So it's kind of hard for me to see with the glare, but we have a couple different agents that we're going to go through. So all the way on the, is at the far left, we have the ICO. We have the reporter, who's a user like you or I. a bot which will record the claims. We have a moderator, and then finally at the very end here we have your litigator, your friendly local litigator, who will help guide things through the process of getting some compensation for your trouble with the ICO. So the ICO makes a claim on Telegram, then you have your reporter. By the way, we're talking about Telegram because there's 180 million users on Telegram, so it's actually the most popular platform for ICOs and cryptocurrency. The same process could be used on other platforms like potentially like Slack or Riot or Discord. But anyhow, so ICO makes a claim, someone says, maybe that's not good, or there's often cases where there are Confederate shells, that kind of thing. Anyhow, someone sees something, they say something, forward the message to the bot. Now the bot collects more and more claims because there's probably going to be a couple people who send in the same claim. So it's going to collect them over, and then eventually it's going to send a collection of claims to a moderator. So the moderator will look at the claims, right, and then maybe I need more. Have anything else about this? I didn't get that last message. Back and forth. And then we have a template. And on the next page, I'm going to show you the template. But populate claims. And then once there's enough claims, because there's a something with a class action suit where you need a particular number of people in order to reach sufficiency. So it's about 20 to 40 individuals generally. So once a particular level is hit, then we're going to send a curated legal intake form to the litigator. And then once again, the litigator now can request more information and get more information from the moderator or from the reporters. So if a case gets to the point where it's actually going to go to court, then there may be the need for individuals to identify themselves, and then there's actually the tools on Telegram to identify, and then even use a token transactions on the blockchain in order to show that someone actually holds these, holds tokens from an ICO that might be held liable. So finally, the last one here. If something does happen, then there's a process where anyone who's corresponded with the bot in a particular set of claims would get notified when formal legal action is commenced. So here's an example of the template that Mr. Daza Greenwood and I put together by looking at a bunch of class action cases that are already in court right now. So by going through them, we found there's a structure that already exists, and so with enough claims going through, you can populate a template here. So we have, preliminary statement, the allegations, the parties, plaintiff, defendant, and then a variety of different things that could potentially be used as cause for litigation. So there's lots of other things that could be done, lots of other ways to go. But if you'd like to join, you can go on Telegram at t.me/sanctioned. Yeah. Thank you. Any questions about the platform? Okay, cool. Yeah.
Well done. So although I haven't done litigation, I've been a lawyer for nearly 20, 25 years in the financial services and securities and investment world. So there's a lot.
This is Boomer, for those who don't know.
Anthony Dell is my real name. Friends call me Boomer, call me whatever you like. But I run a small boutique now called Compliance by Design that helps with blockchain and crypto startups all the way up to big financial services firms on just dealing with regulatory stuff. But on this thing, what I think is fascinating is the litigators already are talking about, and I'm sure you guys are seeing it, the regulatory actions are underway. We get it. We've seen the SEC sweeps that are happening. Wave after wave is coming on that front, and we all know what happens. In the wake of that boat, follow the private litigation suits because of the grunt work's been done by a lot of the government investigators. What's interesting is, since all these ICOs take place on a blockchain, there's a new play here that I think you can really help with, which is the boring nuts and bolts of record keeping and certifying people to the class and finding out who is. The blockchain's got it. Yeah. So I think that you might even have an attack on service you could do for the litigation community of, oh, by the way, our bot's going to crawl through and give you all that record keeping information, and the verification is going to be so much more streamlined. So this is exciting stuff, and I definitely will be talking with you guys about that. Well done,
Yeah,
Steve.
yeah,
Well done.
thank you. And so one note is when you hear phrases like tack-on service for litigation community, you can attach a cash register.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Cha-ching.
All right. Other comments or feedback on?
And by the way, I got so much help. There's so many other people who've helped guide me through this process, and I wish they could be up here with me right now.
I think we've got Mr. Christian Smith.
My question is, how would you prevent people from making illegitimate claims as a form of attack on legitimate ICO, if there is such a thing?
And the answer to that is I don't know, and that's the kind of thing that we'll have to deal with when we come to it. Ultimately, something can either be, either it's a true claim or a false claim, and there's a difference between a claim being made and then it being litigated, and then actually successfully having a court of law or a jury decide the outcome. So that is actually a really big question of what happens if there's like a denial of service attack, or there's all sorts of ways. If there are good actors who can access this, then obviously there are going to be bad actors as well. And so like an idea would be a rate limiting thing. So someone, in the beginning, someone would only be able to send a handful of claims, and then once they've been established as a good actor, then that could give them access to higher throughput or more bandwidth with the bot. But it's definitely something where I would need more help and research to figure that out.
Actually,
thank you.
I'm going to wear my other hat now, so Christian could take over moderation for a second while I'm speaking as a participant, and gavel me out of order if I say something weird. But basically, having helped Mr. Poppers on this project a little bit, one of the things that I was impressed by is that you've got two escape valves in a sense. One of them is a moderator, like Mr. Poppers is a moderator of various communities who looks at these things and kind of decides which ones are clustered initially and whether or when to send a package over to a panel of litigators to look at. And then the next one, of course, is litigators themselves who don't want to waste their time, but they could look at these inputs and say, is there enough here? And part of what we talked about before you arrived with some other lawyers was, is there a way that an attorney that got a packet that thought this might be a class action I might want to litigate, can they contact some of the initial reporters and maybe do some interviews with them, see how many plaintiffs they have, and suss it out? So there's kind of a couple of escape valves to clear the the noise from the signal on this. But it's a real question, because one of the things that that Mr. Poppers taught me is the thing that a scammer hates more than anything else is
scammers hate other scammers. So hopefully what I'm hoping for is that there could be a process whereby, a scammer would turn in another scammer in the hope that, they could clear the way for their scam. So.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So sanction.io. Let's hear it. Nice one. Thank you. Okay. Thanks. Okay. What do you show anything or not? Okay. Uno momento. Can you?
Sure. We're going to be passing back and forth. Okay. Come this side.
It's Keynote.
Yes, that's it.
Oh yeah. So getting the glare of the limelight.
We hold this.
You can see Daza.
Oh, do you have to plug it in? Is that part of what you do? Yeah. Okay. It's a thing.
Right.
Okay. You just get up here. Where's the present button? Oops. How do you go next? Oh, that's the end of the show.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
how do we get to the start?
I don't know how to navigate on this thing.
Oh, how about that? Is that good?
It's heading in the right direction.
Sorry, one moment. Okay, thank you.
What happened to the? Oh. Okay. Let's get our cursor back.
Yeah. And one thing else.
Ignore. Yeah, just we just. Okay. Then we can scroll to the top.
Yeah.
And then we can reconnect this.
So I don't need a mic.
And is it gonna go?
Oh yeah,
I
it's
don't.
gonna go.
I don't need a mic. Is that okay?
You do need a microphone.
I do need a mic. Okay.
I can clip it on if you want.
We're going to be handing that. All right. All right. We are ready for showtime. First of all, I want to say that, like Michael, we have pivoted a bit, came in with one title and are leaving with another. And we couldn't have done it without the feedback we got from you. So those of you who put stickies on our idea board yesterday, I want to thank you. I also want to thank you for your answer to Daria's question yesterday. I won't ask her to repeat it, but I thought it was very revealing when she said, how many of you really feel at home where you live? And there were few hands that went up. So I've tweeted this out, and it's a problem statement that we're trying to solve for the fest. Where we live is disconnected from our dreams and disconnected from our hearts, undermining our happiness individually and collectively. Can we use digital identity and personal data to change that? My Utopia ID's answer is yes. Next slide. Oh, I guess I do that. Okay, so all of us have a magical place in our heart, in our mind, in our soul that we call home. How do we get there? In 1986, this book was written called Coming Home. It's full of values clarification exercises. In fact, I would say it's an early effort to elicit some of the attributes Daria will be talking about shortly. In 1991, I was part of an effort to create a collective homebuyers club. This was rooted in a homebuyer ID that now digital identity gives us the opportunity to reinvent. In fact, not just reinvent for this hack, I propose this becomes a new building block that will connect with some of the apps that you're building, whether it's a block party or whether it's a neighborhood political organization. So let's move forward into that bold new future. I have to tell you, not everyone agrees with that future. There are a lot of people putting money into what I call predatory real estate apps. In fact, at one tech show recently, a vendor bragged about, we are now in the era of Stalker 2.0. How do you like that, privacy advocates?
I don't like it.
This is what people care about in real estate. It all comes down to follow the money. And in Daria's case, her loan application, her apartment application wouldn't include a social security number. So how do we give her, and how do we give 1 million other international students the ability to communicate their personal data, the ability to communicate who their friends are and where they'd like to live with friends in the future? We know that the future now goes through multiple devices, and this is what the real estate ecosystem looks like. This was the chart we had up on the wall. Most of the industry, if I could point to it, is on the seller side or the listing side. We're putting a new tool on the buyer side. That's the image you helped us diagram, and this will now talk about some of the functionality that blockchain will bring into the entire ecosystem. The goal is to deliver 30 billion a year in consumer savings. How do we get there using our personal data? We might just go down this hallway to talk to an MIT project here that allows you to share data on your terms. Of course, we could turn to the standard tools, and some of you mentioned the role of LinkedIn in your own assumption about starting points. Our digital data is spewed across hundreds of sites, and this is where we need to make a pivot.
So we were thinking that, again, what constitutes a home for you, and can you actually quantify your heart and what you feel? And apparently you can. If you look at the attribute, consequence, and value model, our likeness, our like for a certain type of product, whether it's a home or whether it's a, I don't know, Red Bull, comes down to 7 basic values. And all of you, if you think about it, if you think that you like something, it actually comes down to one of those, whether it's a self-esteem, whether it's satisfaction, family, belonging, or simply self-fulfillment. I guess for most people in the room, it will be self-fulfillment. So if you go by this module, if we can just take the main attributes of the place that makes it our home, whether it's the people, the crowd that we're in, and we can relate to the sense of self-belonging, we can quantify our kind of and predict our liking for a particular place. This is an extremely basic example of what I have in mind. If you take a weighted average of an attribute, you add it to the attribute of the area, or the weighted average of the attribute of the area, and times your emotional response. How would you get emotional response? Through this. Or we all have variables, and you know it counts your heart rate. And when you get excited, it tells you, hey, you need a moment to breathe. So you can actually quantify something like that, and you can get a data. It's in your phone. And the weighted average of the attribute which you have for a place would be your own, how much value you give to it, how you feel about it on a scale from 1 to 10, and how it satisfies your current need. That was the idea that we thought that we could quantify.
So there are two broad clusters in this search for the place that you feel at home. What's your utopia and what's your tribe's utopia? We're trying to develop an app that will help you find that intersection. We understand that that's informed by our daily lives. Ultimately, we're trying to create a bliss spot. We're trying to create a heat map of where you feel at home. And we would be open to partnering with people like My Planet. They're developing, Daza knows, she appeared in one of her hackathons. Yeah. Yeah. Proposing a new geotemporal standard for personal data. So this all may sound ephemeral and a little too optimistic for some of you, but here's where it hits the ground. We've put together a proposal for the Boston Foundation to use a housing ID to create intentional communities. Why? Because once a year, Boston does an annual housing report card, and this year they're talking about creating a 21st century village. A village, by definition, has some shared values and shared intentions. Step 2 in their 10-step plan is to quantify demand. Ultimately, a housing ID is a tool of demand. We want to bring it into the real estate industry so all of you can find your heart's desires. Our heart's desires often have subconscious scripts from childhood, and we want to help you get there. For those of you who intend to live in intentional communities, know that this is the tool that will help you get there. We'd love to experiment with some prototypes. And I know Scott has left the room, and I saw Chris Taylor earlier, but I very deliberately showed that how housing decisions connect to climate change. All of us are going to connect to each other. There's divine synergy in what we're creating with blockchain. Let's do it together and throw the party at your house. All right. Okay.
Sign me up. I want to live there. Let me just unclip that from you. You kindly, and I yours too.
I think this is a really cool idea, and I actually needed this about 15 years ago, because I lived in Manhattan, and I wanted to move, and I asked myself, what did I want? And what I wanted was a small town with really smart people in it. So I bought a book. It was like the 100 best small towns in America, and that's how I moved to Cambridge, because that was actually one of the cities. But I'm curious now, how would you envision this app, or finding out what do I want and matching me up to, maybe I should be moving to St. Louis? Like, how do you actually see it coming out in real form?
Yeah, I can try to answer that. So it's very difficult to kind of quantify how you feel about something. But actually, if you think about it logically, it's not that irrational. It's actually rational. It depends on the trade-offs that you are willing to take for one thing against another. So if you feel that a small town would be most important to you, you could put it as one of the values, and you could allocate a certain number from scale of 1 to 10. I know it's extremely simplistic, but it's actually something that you could put a value on. And then if you say how you feel about the small town and whether the town is really small for you where you're moving, so like Cambridge on a scale 1 to 10, small or big, you can sum that up or multiply it, and you can create a weighted value to it, to the town. Then you add additional attributes that you feel would be, I don't know, how Cambridge satisfies the number of smart people living there. And you can sum up all those attributes, and you can actually predict whether you're going to like the place or not. At the same time, you can use the data from the other people, for example. If they allow to share it, then you could make the predictive heat map of how the place will satisfy your particular criteria. That's the idea, like basically.
Can I make a quick response? First of all, I know that book, so I commend you on selecting it. Secondly, I want to say, in addition to the scientific response, there is a human dimension to it. So I would like, as sort of an iteration of where do we go from here, I'd like to do monthly meetups around my utopia as a theme. There's 65 million baby boomers who are thinking about downsizing. There's 75 million millennials who are thinking about co-living. This is the tool that will help inform those decisions across generations.
Others on myutopia.it. Going once, going twice. All right. Well, I hope you do the meetups. We'll go. Right on. Okay. All right. And I think that that is all of the, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So were there any other projects? Let me just make sure. Okay. Hearing none. I think a big round of applause for all of the presenters. That was pretty good. And so ends the Boston MIT Nodes venue or node of the Computational Law and Blockchain Festival. And I want to thank again Thomson Reuters Labs and Brian for sponsoring, for coming out and hacking with us. And I want to thank everybody that participated in the teams and in the breakout discussions. We're getting a lot of play around the world right now with the report outs and people curating the information. So if you signed up on the Google form or on Eventbrite, you'll get a link. If you didn't, come talk to me or to TMA afterwards. Let's make sure that we've got your contact information so we can let you know what happened afterwards. And speaking of afterwards, immediately after this, we go into extra innings that are optional, but I think Mead Hall, do you think? So Daria and I and a couple of other folks at least are going to engage a deeper dialogue on principles for AI and based on scenario-based future mapping. And we've got some really provocative future potential scenarios with AI that we'll use kind of as a discussion anchor. And the other anchor will be your favorite mead in the hall. So we'll walk over there after we kind of put the tables back together. So with that, thank you very much, everybody, and gavel out, gavel out. Right on. And thank you. I do love me a legal hack.